I can only refer it to from my point of view because I don't know how anyone else feels, but I know that as a director of photography, if you get to a certain point, you've got to decide, am I going to go this way or am I going to go this way? Am I going to do big shows, little shows? What's more important to me? And if you start to go this way, there's a competition, and there's also people start thinking, is he a DP or is he a cameraman or is he just a guy who stands behind a camera? And so if you want to be a DP, you have to, there's a certain front you have to put on. Because you have to know where this light goes, you want to know where the camera is. And so you have people looking to you and they've hired you. And let's say in my heyday when you're getting $1,200 a day and you're going to spend 12 hours with these people, they want you to know how to do things. And they're going to turn to you and say, now, we want to do this, how would you do that? And you've got to be able to say that so you kind of think you know everything. But I can tell you that the most important thing is still trying to be nice to people. The only way I ever got to where I am now is by other people. I would get to know somebody and they would hire me for another job, and I would get to know someone and they would hire me. And I worked for 2 years on Touched by an Angel, and there was a woman who worked there who had gotten me a job years before, Sandra Latham. And she told the production that Brian is going to come back and be our camera operator. And they're thinking, I was out of the country. And they started the show and they were a month without an operator, but she held the job for me. So when I got back, they called me and said, when are you going to be here? And I said, well, not tonight, but tomorrow I'll be there. And, so she held the job for me. So without, and I worked 2 years on Touched by an Angel as the A camera operator. And, because of someone got me that job. The DP I worked with on that, the first DP when I got there, was not a very nice guy, but he was really talented. So they kept him for a couple months, and then they got tired of him. And they brought in another guy, and he was from Los Angeles. And since I was the operator, I walked on the camera truck the first day he was there, and I said, hi, Frank, I'm Brian. He goes, who are you? I said, well, I'll be your operator. And he kind of went, like, we'll see. So the first shot we did with Frank was Piper Laurie was in there. She starts out on the street, she walks over here, she crosses the street, she comes over here to a flower thing, picks up some flowers, and then walks close to the camera, and then she throws the flowers in the garbage, and you kind of had to follow her down, and you're on the wheels, and so now you have to, go down on the wheels. And so we did a rehearsal, stuck it, and you always turn and look at the cameraman as an operator, and he goes. So we did it again, stuck it. He goes. And then we did the second take, the third take with the rehearsal and did it, and they liked what she did, and I stuck it again. So I stuck it every time, and Frank kind of went, okay. So then we became friends. So then now he knew I could do my job. So he came up to me, and as we're there by the camera, he would say, well, who's that? And I would say, well, that's Steve Lanieri. He's the sound guy. Frank would go, okay, and then 2 minutes later, he'd go, hey, Steve, come here. So he'd get him and say, hey, Steve, Frank. They'd talk a little bit. Then he'd go, who's that guy over there? Well, that's Joe. He's the boom guy. And so Frank would pretend like he hadn't talked to me, and then go, hey, Joe, come here. And then Joe come over. So by the end of the first 2 days that he was there, he knew everybody's name on set. And he would never say, oh, I need someone to do this. He would say, hey, Joe, hey, Steve, hey, Bert. He would use everybody by name. And on a big set, when you're talking about a 75-man crew, in 2 days he had everybody's name down. And he was a nice guy, and he was very fast. Wow. But he wasn't as good as a cameraman as the guy they fired. But he was quicker. So there is politics that get into it. That can be a good thing sometimes. If you know someone on set, you can get on usually, but if you don't, it's really hard to get on sets nowadays. There's always security guards. Things have changed, and it's hard to get on set. And they just don't invite people like they used to. You used to shoot on the downtown Salt Lake, and anybody and everybody could show up, and now there's security and barricades, and they don't want people coming around. Some of it's liability. Some of it is if you're spending, like on Touched by an Angel, if they were spending $20,000 a day just for that day, each hour costs you a couple $1,000 or however much it is. And so if you waste a half hour, just because someone comes on set. So it's harder, but it's still worthy to get on set. But if you get on there and watch and just pay attention, that's the biggest thing, is if you can pay attention the whole time while you're on set, because not everybody can do that. And it's also true on the set that the more money you get paid, the more attention you need to pay. It's like the director of photography. He gets paid probably, well, the most out of the camera crew, but he has to pay attention all day. The camera operator, which is number 2, he has to pay attention 80% of the day. The first assistant has to pay attention probably 70% of the day, because he needs to do other stuff and he can't pay attention. So he comes back and forth. So, and if you're an art department guy, you come out and do the art and then you go away. So, not getting paid, but the more you get paid, the more your attention you need to. And then the director, who's getting paid the most, pays attention all the time because it's all up to him. And that, as a director, that's all you do is answer questions. What would you like here? What would you like there? So it's interesting. The best advice is you don't know who you're going to work for. I mean, I've worked for companies, I've been freelance, and I worked for corporations, smaller companies and bigger companies, and freelance. I used to try and change jobs every 5 years, whether it was freelance to a company to freelance, because 5 years was about all I could stand at any one place. But the thing of it is, the nicer you are to people, the better you are, because then they'll think, oh, well, let's get Brian back. He was nice. Let's get Brian back. You know, if you make someone mad, and they say, well, we're not going to hire Brian. And I'm on both sides of that story. There's a local director in town who won't hire me because he doesn't like my personality, because he's seen me be mean to people. So he won't hire me. And he does films, and I would really like to work for him, but that's not going to happen because of the way I treated him. He was a second assistant for me. But yet there's other people that I've been really nice to that will. There's another gentleman who became a director. I was teaching a cinematography class, and I had students, and at the place I was working at the time, there were people who liked the students and people who hated the students. And I fell into I like the students. I love what they brought, their enthusiasm. And so here he was a junior when I met him, and he grew up in Austria. And his dad was an opera singer. But he came through my cinematography class, and so I didn't know him from anyone, but he showed promise, and we became friends. 2 years later, he's out of high school, and he's a director, and he's hiring me. So you really don't know who you're going to work for, because only so many of us are going to be cameramen. Some of us are going to be directors, and not everyone's going to want to be behind the camera, and if you want to be behind the camera. So it really does make a difference to how you treat people. And we're all about telling stories and people anyway, so that really is the best part.